All right, welcome back to another episode of Beer, Bacon, and Bros. Me and Chris said we're going to do a little hockey talk while we're waiting for some of the other bros to show up, since they really not as inclined to speak on as we are.
No.
But we're going to talk about who we think regular season was the biggest star of the season. We've got down to three names that we think it's pretty much them three. But we want you guys to let us know in the comments. Oh, sorry, ESPN's screaming at us.
Yeah.
But let us know in the comments who you think. If you disagree, you agree. But I think we're gonna lead off with.
Yeah. All right. I'll give my opinion. So my opinion is Connor McDavid for Edmonton.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. I didn't follow hockey as strongly as I did going into this year, obviously for the show, and I did get to go to a Predators game. Had a great experience with it, and I asked a lot of the Predators fans when I was there, when I really followed hockey, it was when we lived beside each other, and Sidney Crosby was without a doubt the best player in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, well, who's the best player in the league now? And of course, Connor's name came up. Austin Matthews, who I think is maybe your favorite for this category, came up, and then Johnny Gaudreau is how they figured out how to say it. So for Calgary, so. For me, I think Connor McDavid, when you lead the league in points, that kind of really jumps off the stats. But I mean, also I guess it's just a little bit of recency bias. 14 points in his first round series here in the playoffs. I mean, that's maybe just a little recency bias for me. But I mean, he put on a freaking show, and so he definitely looks like he's either had the best season or been the best player in the league this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue on that. He's been fantastic. He's been fantastic for years. It's been him, Austin Matthews, Johnny Gaudreau. I haven't really paid too much attention about him. Yeah. I don't know if this is his coming out year, but second in points, third in assists, first in the plus and minus that I was looking at for the regular season. Now, granted, like I said, all these stats we're talking about are for the regular season. But I also want to shout out Calgary for having, first, second, and third in plus and minus. That's Gaudreau and then two of their left wingers, I forget their names. But I mean, that's pretty good to have. But, and it's one of those things if Johnny's showing out like this which is clearly a talented Calgary team. I mean, how do you weigh that into? Is he standing out, or is it the fact that there's so much talent around it's leaving holes in defenses and stuff like that?
That's fair.
I mean, you go back to like the Wayne Gretzky era. People always talk the Gretzky, not want to say doubters or naysayers, because I mean, you can't doubt what Gretzky did for the sport and being the greatest of all time. But people always say, it's because he had a bunch of just big bullies in front of him that would beat up the defense and then let Gretzky get into the open lanes and stuff. So it's is there slight comparisons to that with Johnny? But I think I'm gonna have to say for this regular season this past year, I'm gonna have to say it's Johnny, just because I like the fact that he was in multiple top threes across the board, which is points, assists, and plus and minus. That's big. You want to see your guy leading as many things as possible, and Johnny really did it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 115 points kind of speaks for itself, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a lot of freaking points. I think, you're right. I think he was second in points, and then Austin was probably third. No, he tied for sixth in points. So, Connor led the league in points at 123. Johnny was only at 115. So, I mean, it's really not that far behind. The plus minus speaks obviously to his value both in a defenseman and an offensive player. I mean, this, like you said, you really didn't hear a whole lot about it, but this was his coming out year. I mean, you look at his stats, he had not scored more than 99 points, and that was in 2018. And so for the last two seasons, he's, been good, but not that great.
Yeah.
And his plus minus has never been higher than, plus 18. It's plus 64 this season. So that's a huge differential.
That's a big thing, because, not only is that, reflecting him for being at least some sort of defensive mind on the ice, but his whole line is obviously good enough to play defense and be highly productive on offense, which is, it's kind of hard to see. And then, I mean, Gaudreau coming out like this year, that might be reflective of Calgary just building up this team and finally getting a bunch of just great guys that work well and are just actually able to compete at this high level.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to all three of these guys. All three teams win the playoffs. Obviously, Toronto didn't move on, Toronto didn't move on. Edmonton's moved on, and Calgary's moved on. They're facing each other. So, I mean, it's gonna be pretty interesting, right? You're gonna get a Johnny and McDavid matchup here. You're gonna see some talented guys going at it that could argue. I mean, Austin certainly has an argument. 60 freaking goals, led the league in goals scored personally. So. tied for sixth in points at 106. That's really not that bad. You know, the plus minus at just plus 20, being 66th best in the league is, you know, something to say about it, I guess, again, taking him down. But super young too. I mean, 24 years old.
Yeah, I was about to comment on that. 24 is young.
Yeah, first overall pick, 2016. Connor McDavid is only 25, and I mean, Johnny's not super old. He's 28.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of these guys, you know, relatively young. Both Connor and Austin are first overall picks. Johnny was a 4th round pick for Calgary. So
yeah, if he starts to produce like this consistently, that's a steal for 4th round. Yeah, I mean, Connor McDavid is. Both these guys are just so young, and it's going to be cool to see Connor going up against Johnny, like you said. It's kind of like, you know, back in the early 2000s and the late 2010s, you would see the, you know, there's always like the Crosby Ovechkin games were always good to watch because you had like the 2 highly touted centers. Now it is kind of like the passing of the torch to like these 2 guys that are coming out of the Western Conference, actually just duking it out on the ice and on the stat sheet. Like truly, really just competing against each other.
Yeah, it'll be a cool matchup to see in the second round. But all right, so I'll go Connor. You said Johnny, and then of course Austin has an argument for it. So let us know in the comments who you think has been the best player in the NHL for the 2021-2022 season. And as always, we appreciate you. Like, comment, subscribe.